2:53 a.m. The Persian Gulf, 78 nautical miles southeast of Bahrain. The Gulf here is shallow, rarely more than 60 meters to the sandy, featureless bottom, and at this hour it is hot, 33 degrees Celsius at the surface, the humidity pressing down like a physical weight. There is no wind. The water is mirror flat, reflecting the distant glow of offshore gas platforms on the horizon to the north and east. Their flares burn an orange against the black sky. Visibility excellent. Sound carries without distortion across the still Gulf surface, and in the pre-dawn silence the low rumble of the USS Dwight D. Eisenhower's 4 steam turbines is audible to every ship within 5 miles. The USS Dwight D. Eisenhower CVN-69, a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered aircraft carrier, the second ship of her class, holds a steady course at 13 knots on a westerly heading, her 2 A4W nuclear reactors running at 38% power. She is the centerpiece of Carrier Strike Group 2, deployed to the U.S. 5th Fleet Area of Operations from Naval Station Norfolk in support of regional deterrence and maritime security operations. Her air wing, Carrier Air Wing 7, 42 strike aircraft and 16 support and helicopter platforms embarked. Her complement, 5,210 officers and enlisted personnel. She has operated in the Persian Gulf for 41 consecutive days. Her crew knows these waters. They know the gas flare geometry at night. They know the timing of the local fishing dhow traffic. They know what belongs here and what does not. Around the Eisenhower, the cruiser USS Hugh City, CG-66, 1.5 miles ahead, her AN/SPY-1A radar sweeping without pause. Destroyers USS Mason and USS Laboon at the forward quarters. The frigate USS Constellation, FFG-62, at the stern quarter. Above the formation at 26,000 feet, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye from Carrier Air Wing 7 orbits on a racetrack pattern, its AN/APY-9 covering 300 nautical miles in all directions. The E-2D crew has been airborne for 4 hours. The Persian Gulf at this hour does not permit complacency. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy had been planning this operation for 5 months. Surveillance, analysis, rehearsal, and coordination across multiple IRGCN commands, and the Quds Force Technical Advisory Element that had upgraded the Shahed series munition to the operational parameters now loaded into 91 launch vehicles at 4 separate coastal sites along Iran's Persian Gulf coastline. The strike package, 64 Shahed 136 loitering munitions, each carrying a 40-kilogram shaped charge warhead, programmed for saturation attack against the carrier's flight deck, island, and fuel storage areas. Alongside them, 18 Nour anti-ship cruise missiles, the Iranian domestically produced variant of the Chinese C-802 with active radar homing, a 165-kilogram warhead, and a sea-skimming terminal approach at 15 meters altitude. And, as the leading edge of the package, designed to arrive 30 seconds before the Shahed swarm, 9 Zolfaghar short-range ballistic missiles with conventional warheads, launched from mobile platforms in coastal positions to arrive near vertically on the carrier and its escorts and force the defensive radars to divide their attention between ballistic and cruise missile threat profiles simultaneously. 92 weapons total, 6 separate delivery systems, 4 different approach axes. The IRGCN planners believe this combination would overwhelm any defensive system in existence. They made 6 catastrophic mistakes. The first mistake, the launch signature. 64 Shahed 136 loitering munitions launching from 4 separate coastal sites over a 70-second window, combined with 18 Nour cruise missile launches and 9 Zolfaghar ballistic launches, generated an infrared, radar, and acoustic signature detectable by every sensor node in the U.S. military's regional surveillance architecture simultaneously. The SBIRS missile warning satellites detected the Zolfaghar launch plumes within 3 seconds of first ignition. The E-2D's AN/APY-9 radar detected the Shahed launch transients. The brief radar return of 64 small airborne vehicles departing their launch positions in rapid sequence within 11 seconds. The P-8A Poseidon on maritime patrol 60 miles northwest of the formation detected the Nour cruise missile launches via its AN/APY-10 surface search radar in the same window. Within 19 seconds of the first launch event, the complete attack picture, 92 weapons on 4 bearings, launch coordinates, estimated time to weapons range, was on every Aegis display in the formation via Link 16. The second mistake. The ballistic timing. The 9 Zolfaghar ballistic missiles were designed to arrive on target 30 seconds before the Shahed swarm, forcing the Patriot-equipped ships to commit their ballistic defense attention, while the cruise missiles and drones arrived through a momentarily saturated defensive picture. The timing assumption was built on reaction time models derived from Saudi Arabian Patriot engagements in Yemen, systems that operate with a command authority chain requiring voice confirmation before engagement. American Aegis systems in automatic mode do not require voice confirmation. The Zolfaghar launch was detected by the E-2D at 19 seconds. The Hugh City's Aegis baseline 9.C1 computed engagement solutions against all 9 tracks in the following 11 seconds and presented the TAO with a weapons assignment matrix before the missiles reached 30 kilometers altitude. There was no hesitation window. There was no window at all. The third mistake, the Shahed 136 frequency band. Both the 900 MHz navigation band and the 2.4 GHz data link band had been logged and loaded into the USS Mason's AN/SLQ-32V 6-Jamming library 18 months earlier following collection operations against Shahed variants in Yemen and Ukraine. The SLQ-32 activated 3 seconds after weapons free and flooded both bands with structured noise. 37 of 64 Shaheds lost GPS coherence immediately and began flying random or circular courses. 27 continued on inertial backup, maintaining general approach bearing, but losing the terminal precision their attack profiles required. The fourth mistake, the Nour radar homing. The 18 Nour anti-ship cruise missiles carried active radar seekers that activate at a programmed range from the target, lock onto the largest radar reflective surface in their acquisition window, and home to impact. Against a carrier and its escorts positioned in open water, the radar acquisition logic would lock onto the carrier's island, the largest metal structure in the radar picture, and drive the missile to impact. The IRGCN's system designers had not adequately accounted for the SLQ-32's active electronic deception capability in the Nour's seeker frequency bands. At the same moment, the SLQ-32 began jamming the Shahed navigation frequencies. It began transmitting false target signals in the Nour's active seeker acquisition band. Ghost returns positioned 12 to 18 nautical miles from the actual formation, large enough in apparent radar cross-section to appear more attractive than the actual carrier to the Nour's lock-on logic. Of 18 Nour missiles, 11 locked onto the false targets and flew to the ghost positions, where their seekers found nothing and the missiles went ballistic into the Gulf. 7 Nour missiles retained lock on actual formation targets, approaching from the northwest on their sea-skimming terminal profiles. The 5th mistake. The approach, axis geometry. 4 different attack bearings, northeast, east, southeast, and south, were intended to force the defensive formation to cover sectors simultaneously, distributing its intercept capacity across the compass. The formation's actual coverage was not compass-dependent. The Cooperative Engagement Capability Network assigned threat tracks to the ship with the best engagement geometry for each target, regardless of bearing. A threat approaching from the northeast was not the Hue City's problem exclusively. It was the formation's problem, managed by the CEC network with all 4 ships contributing sensors and weapons to the engagement solution based on geometric advantage rather than sector assignment. The 4-bearing attack was a sound concept against a single-ship defense. Against a networked multi-ship defense, it was 4 separate engagements managed in parallel with full formation capability available for each one. The 6th mistake was the belief that the quantity of attacking weapons was the deciding variable. It is not. The deciding variable is the quality of the integrated defense. On this night, the Eisenhower Strike Group was at its operational maximum. 41 days on station, 412 general quarters drills, 11 simulated mass attack engagements in the preceding 14 days, specifically modeled on the Shahed, Nour, Zolfaghar combined attack profile. The crew had rehearsed this engagement until the required actions were not decisions. They were reflexes. At 2:53 a.m. and 41 seconds, 19 seconds after the first Iranian weapon left its launcher, the formation-wide weapons free authorization is transmitted. All units, weapons free. Engage all tracks in assigned sectors. Execute. The Hue City fires first against the 9 Zolfaghar ballistic tracks. 7 SM-2 Block 3B missiles launch from her forward VLS cells in a 9-second ripple, each one climbing vertically before tilting to its assigned intercept bearing. The SM-2 Block 3B carries both semi-active radar homing and an infrared terminal seeker. Against a ballistic re-entry vehicle descending vertically at Mach 4, the IR mode acquires the thermal signature of the kinetic heating on the warhead's nose section and guides to proximity detonation. 3 Zolfaghar warheads are intercepted at altitudes between 22 and 31 kilometers by the first SM-2 salvo. The Hue City fires 4 more SM-2s at the remaining 6 tracks. 4 more intercepts. The last 2 Zolfaghar tracks, which have separated from their booster sections and are descending as bare warhead sections, reduced in radar cross-section and slightly faster in terminal velocity, are engaged by 2 SM-6 dual I missiles from USS Laboon. Both intercepted. Proximity detonation at altitudes of 14 and 17 kilometers above the Gulf. None of the 9 Zolfaghar warheads reaches the surface. 9 ballistic warheads. 9 intercepts. 11 seconds from first SM-2 launch to last intercept. The 27 Shaheds that survived the SLQ-32 jamming on inertial backup navigation continue their approach on degraded precision. They are operating without GPS correction, which means their terminal approach accuracy has degraded from a 10-meter CEP to a 300-meter CEP, sufficient to impact somewhere near a carrier, but not the precise deck or island strike the attack designers intended. More immediately, the degraded navigation means the Shaheds are not flying in their planned coordinated swarm geometry. They are spread across a 60-mile front approaching from the northeast and east, individually rather than in their designed overlapping waves. Individually, a Shahed 136 is a target the size of a large dog, traveling at 185 kilometers per hour, with a thermal signature from its small rotary engine that any FLIR system can detect at 12 miles. The two FA-18F Super Hornets on combat air patrol northwest of the formation, vectored onto the Shahed approach axis by the E-2D at 2:54 a.m., engaged the leading Shaheds with AIM-9X Sidewinder missiles, infrared homing against the Shahed's hot engine exhaust. 8 Shaheds eliminated in 4 minutes of systematic engagement as the F/A-18Fs work through the approaching formation. The Super Hornets expend their Sidewinder loads and transition to gun engagement. The M61A2 Vulcan 20mm cannon at 6,000 rounds per minute against small, slow-flying targets at 200 meters altitude. 6 more Shaheds disabled by cannon fire before the F/A-18Fs reach Winchester status and break east to recover. Wait, correcting, 6 more Shaheds rendered inoperable by cannon fire. The USS Constellation, positioned at the formation's stern quarter with her Mark 41 VLS cells and AN/SPS-80 tracking radar, fires 24 evolved Sea Sparrow Missile Block 2, ESSM Block 2, interceptors against the main Shahed body approaching from the eastern sector. The ESSM Block 2 is a close-to-medium-range surface-to-air missile with a 50-kilogram blast fragmentation warhead and an active radar seeker that enables fire-and-forget engagement. Once the missile is launched and guides to its seeker acquisition range, the launching ship's radar is free to assign new tracks. The Constellation's fire control assigns 1 ESSM per Shahed target, keeping a second missile queued for any track that survives the first interceptor. 24 ESSM Block 2 missiles, 19 intercepts. 5 Shaheds survive the first ESSM salvo and continue inbound. The USS Mason engages the 5 survivors plus the 3 remaining Shaheds approaching from the northeast sector with 8 additional ESSM Block 2 missiles. 6 intercepts. 2 Shaheds survive the Mason's ESSM engagement and reach within 4 nautical miles of the Eisenhower, flying at 200 meters altitude on their inertial backup approach course. Both now 300 meters off their programmed aim points due to the GPS degradation. Both aimed not at the carrier's flight deck, but at a point in the water 200 meters off her port bow. 2 Ram Block 2 missiles fire from the Eisenhower's own Mark 49 launcher. Both intercept. 1 Shahed falls into the Gulf at 1.8 nautical miles. The second falls at 900 meters. Neither detonates on a ship. The shaped charge warheads impact the water and produce large splashes visible from the Eisenhower's bridge wing. The watch officer notes them in his log. He does not leave his position. The 7 Nour anti-ship cruise missiles that retained lock on actual formation targets approach from the northwest at sea-skimming altitude, 15 meters above the flat Gulf surface, at Mach 0.85. The SLQ-32's jamming has not broken these 7 seekers loose from their acquired targets. All 7 are tracking. 3 are tracking the Hugh City. 2 are tracking the USS Laboon. 2 are tracking the Eisenhower herself. USS Laboon fires 4 SM-2 Block 3B missiles at the 3 Nour tracks targeting the Hugh City, providing cross-formation engagement against threats assigned to the cruiser. The SM-2's infrared terminal mode acquires the Nour's hot jet exhaust against the cool Gulf water surface. 3 missiles, 3 intercepts at ranges of 12, 9, and 7 nautical miles from the Hugh City. The cruiser never engages them with her own weapons. The cross-formation engagement model of the CEC network has already handled the threat from the destroyer's more advantageous firing geometry. The 2 Nours targeting Laboon are engaged by Laboon's own ESSM Block 2 and 1 RAM Block 2 missile from her port launcher. 2 intercepts, both Nour eliminated at 5 and 4 nautical miles. The 2 Nours targeting the Eisenhower are the last active threats. They are at 9 nautical miles, 15 meters altitude, Mach 0.85, seekers locked. The USS Hugh City, which has completed its own sector engagement, swings its fire control to the northwest and fires 2 SM-2 Block 3B missiles at the inbound Nours. Both intercepts. The first Nour is eliminated at 7 nautical miles. The second at 5.3 nautical miles. Neither reaches the formation. 3:07 a.m., 14 minutes since the first Iranian weapon launched. 92 weapons. All 92 neutralized or rendered inoperable. 9 Zolfaghar ballistic warheads intercepted in the upper atmosphere. 37 Shaheds confused and downed by electronic jamming. 27 Shaheds engaged and eliminated by F/A, 18F aircraft, ESSM, and RAM missiles. 11 Nour missiles defeated by SLQ, 32 electronic deception. 7 Nour missiles intercepted by SM-2 and ESSM. 0 weapons reached the Eisenhower. 0 weapons reached any ship in the formation. 0 American casualties. 0 damage to any U.S. asset. The tactical action officer aboard the USS Hugh City transmits his post-engagement summary in the same tone he uses for a routine surface contact report. Strike Group, Hugh City. All tracks neutralized. 0 hull contact on any formation ship. 0 casualties. All systems fully operational. Counter-strike package is standing by. The strike group commander's authorization takes 4 seconds. Execute Anvil Strike Gulf. All assets. Time now. Anvil Strike Gulf was a pre-built targeting package maintained at the 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain and updated continuously as the intelligence picture on IRGCN coastal infrastructure evolved. It was not assembled after the attack. It was waiting for the attack. Updated to 72 hours earlier following the intelligence reporting that had flagged elevated IRGCN launch preparation activity at the 4 coastal sites. Every target coordinate was current. Every aim point had been reviewed by the Indo-PACOM Judge Advocate's Office for compliance with the law of armed conflict. The package was ready the moment the first Shahed left its launcher. At 3:08 a.m., the USS Hugh City opens 18 VLS cells, 18 Tomahawk Block. 5 land attack missiles climb from the cruiser's forward deck in a 22-second ripple, each one transition into terrain-following cruise at 550 knots, heading north and northeast toward the Iranian coastline. USS Mason fires 14 Tomahawks 16 seconds later. USS Laboon fires 12 Tomahawks 18 seconds after Mason. 44 Tomahawks total, spanning a firing window of 56 seconds, headed for 4 separate target complexes on the Iranian coast. Target Complex Alpha, the IRGCN Shahed launch facility at Bandar Abbas, the primary coastal site from which 22 of tonight's 64 Shahed 136 had been launched. The facility had been positively identified in satellite imagery 48 hours earlier. A compound of 3 launch preparation buildings, a fuel storage area, a vehicle maintenance facility, and a command post structure with a satellite communications array. 8 Tomahawks. The command post takes the first warhead. The satellite array goes silent before the facility's occupants can process the incoming strike alert. The 3 launch preparation buildings each take a penetrating Block 5 warhead through their reinforced roofs. The fuel storage takes 2 warheads with incendiary delay fusing. Secondary detonations as stored Shahed fuel ignites confirm the intelligence assessment of the storage capacity at this facility. Target complex. Bravo, the Nour coastal missile battery at Keshem Island, the shore-based launcher cluster from which all 18 Nour missiles were fired tonight. The Nour battery is not a fixed installation. It is a mobile system mounted on wheeled vehicles that would normally relocate immediately following a salvo. But the 4-vehicle launcher convoy had been tracked by the P-8A Poseidon from the moment its radar emissions activated for targeting 21 minutes before launch, and the vehicle positions had been updated continuously. The convoy had moved 14 kilometers to the east following launch. Standard IRGCN shoot and scoot doctrine, but had not yet reached its concealed dispersal position when the first Tomahawk arrived. 6 Tomahawks, 4 vehicles. The first 3 warheads impact the road convoy in sequence. The 4th and 5th hit the convoy's trail-in support vehicle and the pre-surveyed dispersal site, the building into which the convoy was moving to shelter. The 6th hits the Keshem Island radar facility that had provided the Nour battery's targeting data for tonight's operation. Target complex. Charlie. The Zolfaghar mobile missile launcher positions north of Bandar Abbas. 3 TEL vehicles that had launched the 9 ballistic warheads had been tracked by the P-8A during and after their firing sequence. IRGCN doctrine requires immediate launcher relocation following ballistic missile firing. The 3 TELs had moved. The P-8A's AN/APY-10 radar had tracked all 3 vehicles on the coastal road network during their post-launch movement. Their current positions, updated 40 seconds before the Tomahawk launches, were loaded into 6 warheads, 2 per TEL. All 3 TEL vehicles are located and struck within 4 minutes of the Tomahawk impacts at the other complexes. Target Complex Delta. The IRGCN Regional Command and Coordination Facility at Bandar-e-Jask. The command node identified by Signals Intelligence as the headquarters element that had coordinated tonight's multi-site strike package. The facility had been the source of the encrypted command traffic that had spiked in the 48 hours before the attack, flagged by NSA analysts as operationally significant. A hardened building with reinforced concrete construction, satellite communications arrays, and a backup command center assessed as partially buried beneath the main structure. 8 Tomahawks. The satellite communications arrays take the first 2 warheads, severing external command links. The main building takes 4 Block 5 penetrating warheads in sequence. The partially buried backup command center takes the final 2 warheads, GBU-28 type penetrating fill configuration selected by the targeting team specifically for the assessed burial depth. At 3:12 a.m., 4 FA-18E Super Hornets from Carrier Air Wing 7 launched from the Eisenhower's catapults, each aircraft carrying 4 AGM-88E advanced anti-radiation guided missiles, AARGM, the 4 IRGCN coastal air defense radar systems that had been active during the attack, their frequencies, pulse repetition intervals, and antenna positions all logged by the SLQ-32 during the engagement, are the AARGM targets. 16 missiles. 4 radar sites. Each site takes 4 missiles in ripple. The radar emissions that had been tracking the American formation throughout the night go dark one by one between 3:24 a.m. and 3:31 a.m. as the AARGM impacts destroy each antenna system. At 3:29 a.m., 2 MQ-9 Reapers from Al Udeid Air Base reach Bandar Abbas for post-strike assessment. Their FLIR sensors identify 2 additional Shahed launch vehicles, moved to the site during the strike package's flight time, in an adjacent compound. Both engaged with GBU-38 JDAMs. Both rendered inoperable. By 3:38 a.m., 45 minutes after the first Iranian weapon launched, the Anvil Strike Gulf counterstrike is complete. Battle damage assessment, 5th Fleet Intelligence at 5:30 a.m. Bandar Abbas Shahed Facility, Command Post, 3 launch buildings and fuel storage destroyed. 2 additional launch vehicles destroyed by MQ-9. Keshem Island Nour Battery, 4 launcher vehicles destroyed in transit, radar facility destroyed. All 3 Zolfaghar TEL vehicles north of Bandar Abbas located and destroyed. Bandar E Yask Command Facility, communications arrays destroyed, main structure severely damaged, backup command center non-functional. All 4 IRGCN coastal radar sites destroyed by AARGM. Total IRGCN coastal strike capacity reduced by 60 to 75%. Estimated IRGCN personnel casualties 77 to 109. American losses 0. 0 ships damaged. 0 casualties. At 3:41 a.m., the USS Eisenhower secures from general quarters. Flight operations resume at 4 a.m. The ship comes to base course, westerly 13 knots. The crew is advised over the 1MC. All hands return to normal watch rotation. The 6 IRGCN mistakes are already being cataloged in after-action reports aboard 5 ships. They will be classified, filed, and studied, informing every subsequent Gulf deployment. The Persian Gulf is open. The Eisenhower sails west. Her radar sweeps the calm, hot water with the same precision it has maintained without pause for 6 weeks. The gas flares burn orange on the horizon. Dawn comes at 5:07 a.m., and the carrier's deck crew begins the day's first aircraft cycle with the steady efficiency of people who do this every morning, in these waters, regardless of what the previous night brought. 92 weapons fired in one night. 92 reasons why the Persian Gulf stays open and the carrier stays in it.